Right. Okay, we're on number 3 now, and we're talking about the Botswana and Zambia group visit that we did just a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago or so. And you're getting it a bit secondhand because my very competent colleague, Duncan, is in Nairobi at the moment. So I'm afraid you're going to have to put up with me. So he's given me his presentation. And so I'm going to, the way it's going to work, this one, is, we like to be short and sharp. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sketch the situation for you. And then I'm going to ask Reese, who was on the visit, to give his views as well, because we like to have our clients actually also talk more occasionally here as well. And they have certain insights that we maybe don't pick up. So that's what we're going to do. So it's going to be very short and to the point, and then we can carry on. Okay. Firstly, the whole purpose of the mission was very much to look at the Kazungula Bridge. This Kazungula Bridge has been hanging around forever and ever, amen. It's a Pont at the Mo ferry, and it's blocking trade. This is where the 4 countries merge, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Namibia, Botswana, where they merge, and it creates it's a very important crossing point, and it has very, very big implications. When I show you the slides later on, you'll see that we're talking about linkages to Durban, to Dar es Salaam, to everything that is concerned with this. So for those of you in the room who are logistics people, you will understand this. But everybody, and I always say, the 2 things that really count and have to happen for a project to succeed is finance and logistics. If you don't have those 2 things in place, well, what are we talking about, So basically, there are a couple of pictures that Duncan took, and there's a temporary bridge that's built, and I'll show you the timelines and all of that for the construction in the meantime. Just a little bit of history on it. The project was delayed also because of JICA, the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, pulled out of the project at one stage. And that delayed things quite substantially. Most of the funding is African Development Bank and the Special Infrastructure Fund from the European Union. And the other big issue that came about in this, that Duncan hasn't covered in his thing because he's going straight to the point, but I think history is quite important, is the question of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, openly declared it as a bit of a threat for the Bight Bridge traffic, and also said that there was an adequate bridge in Livingstone, and therefore, what was the point of this project? There was opposition from Zimbabwe, to such an extent that the project basically links Botswana and Zambia and does a curve. It curves into Zambia, and the proponents of the project also spoke to Namibians to ensure that it would pass through Namibia, because everything converges there, and to get the goodwill of the Namibians in the story, which Johnny can comment on later on. But there was a political hot potato in the past over this project as well. And but nevertheless, we from a business point of view are so glad it's happening, because it can only help. And let's see what else it does. Okay, so the importance of the bridge, I can't go through every side, but it's linking Botswana and Zambia. Critically placed to play a role. I think that's obvious, and with the confluence of the countries that I mentioned, and Angola not being too far away either. And it has a huge implication for Livingstone as well. As Emmanuel, you'll agree. I mean, Livingstone is key in that, and we had one of the most successful meetings we had was with the Livingstone Chamber of Commerce, which was very kindly facilitated by you guys. So thank you very much for that. And then, very important, it's a crucial, sensitive area, and everything is being investigated with regard to the environmental impact. There's a lot of wildlife there. There's a lot that that you have to worry about, and environmental impact is important. But it will transform trade in Southern Africa the next couple of years. But what's it going to unlock? Let's ask ourselves, what's this thing going to do? Okay, well, firstly, just to have a look at where it is, and then the layout there at the project location. And there's Namibia, as you can see there, Zambia, Botswana, Zimbabwe. So you can see, and that's where the offices are, and so on there. And that's the broader picture of the whole thing in that side there. Right. The project scope includes, and it's very multifaceted. So 923-meter long rail and road project. So rail is very much part of the story. And what Duncan has done is he's broken it up into road, rail, commercial property, all of the implications of it. And by the way, those of you Africa House subscribers, don't worry too much about things, because you are entitled to the detailed visit report. which will explain a lot further to you. This is only a brief thing. So the packages, there are 3 packages. Daewoo Engineering is playing a prominent part, and then there's Zhonggang Engineering, and then that's the one-stop border post. The intention is, we're talking about one-stop border post all the time, and they have had very mixed success, this one-stop border post story, unfortunately. Like the Pedicle Road, when's that going to be a one-stop border post? I don't think that's going to happen too soon, in my experience. But anyway, so construction of one-stop border posts, the bridge, and apart from the bridge, and then there's various social impact, like the resettlement of Lumbo Village. And then the project is slightly behind schedule, but the contractors are catching up, and it's hoped that it will be ready at around about the same time as the bridge. Let's say the one-stop border post will be ready simultaneously. So, people are so pessimistic sometimes. They say, it's talk about Africa all the time. Yeah, here it is. It's happened. It's happening. Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia happened. So all those that say, always throw Inga at us. Yeah, you guys talk Inga all day long. What's happened? But Renaissance Dam happened, and this has happened. So, okay, so it's on the rail side, which is a key part of the north. Remember, this falls within the whole North-South Corridor strategy, where our president is the presidential, what's it called? Champions Initiative, PICI. Presidential initiative. So South Africa has a certain responsibility with regard to the North-South Corridor. We at Africa House, maybe Liz will even talk about it later on, is we're very concerned with the North-South Corridor, and we've done a lot of work on it as well. 22-kilometre link from the bridge to Livingston line that will link to the copper belt. So you're bringing in the copper belt. You got 360. These are all the planned railways from Kasane to Soa, which links to Francistown, and then Mamabula in furthest, and then Lepelale in South Africa, and so on. So, and then on the power side, there's a number of transmission lines which are important. Kasane to Maun, and power will be involved with Botswana is very involved with water transfer projects, being a dry country. Except in that area. And then there are several roads that require substantial upgrades, and you can see all of these. As I say, those of you who are Africa House subscribers, you get all the details of this. And then, see, at the moment, this Kazungula to Sisheke and border with Katima Mulilo in Namibia, should be a 2.5 hour drive, and it's taking up to six hours at present. So there's various key roads to Choma. Then there's a ring road for Livingston, because what's the good of having the traffic all going through the centre of Livingston? That would be a Nairobi scenario, which we wouldn't want. And then truck stops, currently trucks, and that's a business in itself, truck stops. In fact, we've got a few clients interested in that particular thing. If cargoes from Namibia, including transit from Walvis Bay, are added, this would be a nice major boost for the area. Maybe, Johnny, when you speak, you'd like to make a comment about the Kazungula story. It would be quite interesting in a Namibian perspective on it. Then a water pipeline, of course, a major water shortage, especially in southern Botswana. So with obviously Gaborone and Lobatse and also Francistown. So there's a 581 kilometre pipeline to Pandamatenga. You can hear a lot about Pandamatenga because that's a major project for the whole area. I've got a slide on that coming just now. And then 8 reservoirs, pump stations. 270 million will be reserved of that amount will be reserved for Pandamatenga, and then the EI has improved. World Bank final study to be completed next month. So a lot of action. There's the Botswana Pula amounts for the project at 5 billion to 15 billion, and so on. Right, and then other developments. And when we do these things, like when I went to San Pedro in Cote d'Ivoire, it was not just about the port. It was very much about the commercial property, the accommodation, that aspect of things. Because when all this activity happens, it spurs on a whole lot of ancillary infrastructure that is required. And so the Chobe District is busy with a Kasane. Kasane is the key town on the Botswana side, a facelift project to relocation of community involved there, and also to turn Chobe into a global tourism center. So that comes in as well. And commercial and retail developments, Choppies and ShopRite, both have malls in Kasane. Travelodge has recently opened a hotel and conference center there. So it's followed in. In Cote d'Ivoire and San Pedro, we are working with that, trying to get a hotel going quickly, because we see the opportunity. Aquaculture is seen as holding great promise for the area. and plans to eventually sell dried fish to DRC because everything gets exported to DRC. You can't buy anything from the DRC, just about. Okay, Pandamatenga, which I said to you is about, actually, when I was looking at the this afternoon, looking at the African Development Bank's analysis of this project, you think of Pandamatenga as very much an agricultural project, but it's very much to do with access roads and support infrastructure and so on. Chobe, this is the main point, is the breadbasket for Botswana, and it accounts for 80% of cereals produced, but only satisfies 30% of local demand. So it's an absolute priority for Botswana to get this Pandamatenga thing up and running to meet the demand. And it's to improve the whole agricultural supply. Arable production and commercial have been increased to 44,500 hectares from 25,000 hectares. Construction of more silos, use of underground water, horticulture, solar energy. One thing that Duncan mentioned is that the usage of solar energy along the fencings and the thing is all over the place. He says major opportunities for solar energy in this particular regard. And underground water, both rain-fed and aquifer, and develop, okay, I said all of that. And the need for site services, all kinds of ancillary things, customs offices, training, research, plants, vehicles, all of that sort of thing that's required. And the African Development Bank's very much behind this project. And I was looking for the funding, and it is a priority project. There's one little thing that Duncan whispered to me. He actually sent me an email when he knew I was doing this. He said, there's a bit of a problem here in that Botswana really wants to move ahead on this and has very strong plans and so on, but the World Bank and the donor, especially the World Bank, wants to see it in a regional context. And there's some issues there, because Botswana wants to move ahead. But the donors are saying it has to be regional, and therefore this has to be concluded, and that has to be concluded. And therefore, there's that problem. There's the current output there, where he's gone through what's being produced, cowpeas, chickpeas, millet, beans, sorghum, and so on for that. Trade through, as I said, it extends very far. You're talking about the implications for it are very far-reaching. Like for the DRC Copper Belt, and right up to Kazungula, and Duncan and I know all about Kazungula. We've walked through that border post, and then delays and cost increases have major impact on the competitiveness and potential for much greater intra-regional trade and investment on the completion of the bridge and the one-stop border post. This whole one-stop border post thing is a serious issue, and it's full of politics and nonsense, and it really is necessary. As you speak to any freight forwarder, is Bolloré here today? They were registered to come. Okay. And that's from our side here. I've shortened Duncan's presentation quite a lot because I'd like to now ask Reese to come up here.
Thanks, Paul. Paul made sure that I don't bore you by giving me a limit of 5 minutes and no slides. So I feel quite qualified to give you my perspective on traveling in Africa with Africa House. I'm a geoscientist, new to the whole infrastructure sector, but I used to work for a few different multinationals and traveled through Africa, Stoksiel by myself for the Zambians in the house, quite a bit. So I can echo Elke's sentiments in terms of traveling in foreign francophone regions and having to adapt to that style of business. I spent too many days waiting for transport and waiting for meetings. So it was really a breath of fresh air to go on such an exceptionally facilitated trip. Duncan is certainly an expert and has a silver tongue. In terms of the program, I don't think your slides really touched on it. But the first day was spent in Gabs. We landed pretty early. And then walked into a lineup of meetings with the Botswana Investment Trade Council. There was the agriculture, water. There was the Special Economic Zone guys that came in. The one that we missed was the High Commission. And they decided that they weren't coming to us. So it was a bit of a protocol issue. That day was jam-packed. We had social sessions in the evenings, exceptionally well attended, probably about 40 engineers, the works across the various sectors, came to us and partook in very fruitful discussions. Day 2 was straight up to Kasane, sat in more meetings with their council up there, and learnt about what their vision is for that district. Pandamatenga went down to that agricultural district, found out what they're providing. Your slide that says they're providing 30% of the demand in Botswana is slightly skewed, because if you look at the numbers there, they're producing a lot of sorghum and cowpeas. And they're actually oversupplying. So they need foreign buyers. They need trade to come into the region. So they want to develop another 40,000 hectares. This is their goal. They need the water, though. So the ideal is to put that under irrigation. They've got silos there. The silos are standing with grain because they can't move the sorghum. So they're looking to diversify the stock, provide Botswana with what Botswana needs, and then look at trading into the local region. So as Paul mentioned, set up trade into the neighbouring countries. That's something that the funders are requiring for this project to go ahead. They were talking timelines of 2025 for the Pandamatenga pipeline, and then an extension and a second pipeline parallel to that out to 2045. So these projects are quite long term, but well thought through. We then went straight out to Toby, met with their district council. To get these guys in the same room at the same time is invaluable. And they were on time every time. Transport wasn't an issue, all prearranged. Went to the bridge, met with the site office, the development engineers there. Again, exceptionally well facilitated. And then across to Livingston and met with their local commerce council. The permanent secretary for the southern region in Zambia made it after his meeting. So he sat in the car for hours to get to us, because the 17th of August, which is when we happen to be there, is SADC Day, apparently. So what they do is they have a meeting somewhere in the SADC region at some joint infrastructure project. And that day just happened to be at the Kazungula Bridge. So he drove all the way there, then drove all the way to us and spent an hour or two with us, and then was off to another meeting. So to get these guys time, I think, is invaluable. And congratulations to you for doing that so well. It was really a turnkey trip. Thanks, Paul. I think my 5 minutes is up.